So how do I incorporate my child's new diagnosis into our lives?
Welcome to Momversations on the Win-Win Women Network. Regan and I are your hosts.
Our goal with these conversations is to enrich motherhood and help us all keep calm and mom on. I think that really applies to today's topic.
Today, especially, we want to give you the tools and resources you need to get through this. So the topic of today's Momversation is news that leads to a new normal.
For the first half hour, we'll be discussing steps on how to incorporate a new diagnosis of one of your children into your life. And then we'll invite you all to unmute and join the Momversation for the second half hour.
Yes, please share your input, ask questions, take advantage of this interactive feature that we have through the Win-Win Women Network, where we can just all care and connect and collaborate.
So let's go back to that question. How do I incorporate my child's new diagnosis into our lives?
Yeah.
I'm sure you all know of someone, maybe even experienced it yourself, who has been waiting weeks or months, even years, to get answers to symptoms that their child is experiencing. There are some out there who still don't have answers. They might have lost hope and just run out of doctors to see and have no other choice but to live with what's going on. As we're talking about how to incorporate this diagnosis into our lives and create a new normal, I first want to start with a congratulations. You've got an answer. You've been fighting for that, and it's probably been a long journey. And of course, you're aware that things might get harder. But I do hope you'll take a minute to celebrate that first hurdle that you've gotten over.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a good starting point because, I mean, that's the hardest and most grueling part, right? You've both done the work. You've both been to all the doctor's appointments. Your child has been stabbed and monitored and prodded, and been forced to wait for someone just to tell you what is going on. All of that has led to an answer. And I definitely think it's worthy of a pause and a celebration, but I don't actually know anybody who has done that. Has actually celebrated, like, yay, we got a diagnosis. No, it's more like true. We got the diagnosis.
Right. And it feels more like feeling stuck on that hurdle, perhaps.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, I don't know that everybody's aware there needs to be a diagnosis. I know a couple of the families that I've been blessed, honored to share their journey with them. They just never imagined that what their child was experiencing was going to lead to some kind of diagnosis. One of our homeschool family friends, their daughter did have some fatigue issues and urination issues, but they weren't quite sure how to move forward, finding things out, and it never occurred to them that diabetes. She was going to be diagnosed with juvenile diabetes at age 6.
Oh, wow.
So I know that they were grateful finally to feel like they could then attack the actual problem, instead of just kind of feeling up in the air about everything.
It's definitely a mental game. I feel like just having that answer is such a relief.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, now we know what we're dealing with.
Yes. And so your efforts can be more targeted.
Exactly.
And you can pull in the right support systems.
Or even just guessing, like, what could it be? What could it be? What could it be? Like, doing all this research.
Really hard.
That's hard and exhausting. Like, so yes, you're right. Like, having that diagnosis, I feel like it's the first step, I would say, but it's such a big one.
Yeah. And like I said, in most cases, you never really dream that it's going to be something, or rather never a nightmare that it's going to be. My husband's cousin, Cheryl, this is several years ago, but her 3-year-old was just showing some normal 3-year-old stuff, except kind of extreme. So crying so much that he would vomit.
Mhm.
And she just was like, I guess that's a tantrum for you, you
I
know?
guess that's just his little personality.
But finally, one day it was so drastic. And I think it had happened 3 times that morning or
Oh,
something
wow.
that she rushed him to the ER
Mhm.
and leukemia, for heaven's sakes.
wow.
Like it had never crossed her mind that that's what those symptoms could lead up
Yeah.
to. In fact, she did a blog. I mean, she had been blogging, and that was just kind of a hobby of
Mhm.
hers. And the blog post that revealed this said something like, Lincoln has leukemia. Did I really just type that? Like
Oh my gosh.
having to come to terms with this.
Right. That's intense. My pediatrician calls my daughter a very intense child because she does throw a lot of temper tantrums, but I don't think to the point that I would ever have, like,
Yeah,
it's just her personality.
yeah,
That's where I would go with that. But good on her for using her maternal instincts to see that
Yeah.
something is not right. I think diagnoses,
some kind of medical terms that are hard.
that word
Yeah.
goes there. I think they come with like a huge array of emotions and like overwhelming emotions. One part of you might be relieved while the other is terrified. Like I cannot imagine how much terror your husband's
Yes.
cousin would have felt in that moment for her 3-year-old.
Right. Right.
And you might even be like me where, okay, we have a diagnosis, let's make a plan, let's attack it, let's go, 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 go,
Yeah.
go. But I feel like there's a pressure coming, maybe not just from you, but probably external sources to be like, okay, let's get this done, let's fix this,
Now that we know, we can get our new normal right away.
yeah, exactly, like let's just get back to normal. I think it's all going to come up and very fast too, but in my opinion, one of the most important things that you can do is just like take a minute, take a breath, be gentle with yourself, be gentle with your child. Trust that it's going to be okay. I know that's so hard to tell people, like, it's going to be okay, but just being kind to yourself and not letting those external forces come in and interrupt what you need to do for you and your child. Like it's taken such a long time to get to that point to get a diagnosis. I think one of the best things you can do is just sit with it. And whether that means journaling or talking to a friend, or like me, I would like lose myself in research just to find out everything that I could and be prepared. Or even shutting everyone out and letting the entire family sleep the week away, take the kids out of school.
Yeah.
Just get a little bit of distance, whatever that looks like in
Yeah.
giving yourself time. Just trust your gut and trust that your child also knows what they need.
Yeah. I love that. I agree that that's, I think, one of the purposes of maternal instincts. They are so deep in our souls, and they are, in some ways they overlap from your maternal instincts to mine, but in some ways they are unique, coming from what we've personally gone through in the past, which is going to help us prepare for the future, right? Especially personality wise, we're going to have that's part of why it needs to be different, because we have different personalities, and we're managing different personalities in our homes with our kids, and so those instincts really do need to be respected for the purposes that they serve. So you're in the middle of this right now.
We are kind of not with anything drastic as cancer or leukemia or diabetes, but we've been working hard to get my son a diagnosis for autism spectrum disorder.
Okay.
We noticed when he was around 2 that he didn't want to talk. And so we had him put in speech therapy through the school district, and he was in specialized classes and working with very intelligent and like speech therapists who got to know him personally. Excuse me. But then after that, we addressed the speech issues, and then we could not potty train him. And so then it was having to put him in occupational therapy. And that is where we learned that he had a sensory processing disorder. So just a lot of things started clicking into place for us. Like other things have come up since then. He started hand flapping. So it's called stim, like stimming, where there's just so much internal energy that they need to get it out.
So that's fun.
So that's fun. And it normally only happens like when he's at home on the couch, like when he's on his iPad, like he's flapping his hands, and he does it like pretty strong, like like he can knock something off the table. And he, other things, like he's very routine. If we break through that routine, he has a hard time adjusting. So I have to tell him, okay, I'm going out for a run for this amount of time, and he'll be like, okay. But if I break what that is, if I break that time, like I'm in trouble. Like, I get yelled at. But the past year or so, especially with our family moving into our house, his anxiety has like gone through the roof. And so we had to put him in a class at school, an anxiety class with the school psychologist there, which he's doing very well, but he also started exhibiting like a lot of OCD tics. Like he fully believes that someone will break into our house and murder him if he leaves the laundry room door open when he goes to bed.
Oh, sweet.
So all of this to say, like, things are happening.
Yeah.
But for the longest time, we've just been dealing with symptom here, symptom here, symptom here. We never really considered the whole picture. Okay, I never really considered the whole picture, that autism was a possibility, like you said, with your cousin Cheryl and that other homeschool family. Like you just don't, your brain doesn't go there because you don't want it to go there. Even as something as widely known as autism now, like this is not a huge medical disease. Like there aren't really any painful areas for him.
Well, and it's a spectrum.
It's
autism is a spectrum. So meaning there's different degrees of severity and so and so
I never even let myself consider that, okay, he may be autistic. But about 3 years ago, his pediatrician brought it up, and she brought it up enough times in a row that I just got so mad at her. I was considering finding a new pediatrician, even though she'd been his pediatrician since he was a month old, and he's 9 now.
Wow. Okay.
So all that time, and I liked her up until that point, and she's just like, "Are you concerned about autism? Are you concerned about autism?" And I was like, "No,
don't talk about that.
Just don't. We don't need to go there." But like I said, as I look back now, I see that we've been dealing with, individual symptoms rather than, okay, let's look at the whole picture and find the source. So it's taken me years to even schedule an appointment for him to be evaluated. But I think having that will relieve a lot of pressure in our family, and it'll just click like, okay, this is what we do. This is how everyone needs to adjust. And just kind of getting into making a plan. And making it normal in our family. I don't care what anyone else says outside of it. It's just, we got to make that, we have to create that normal in this house. So what has been important and really helpful for us is cataloging his behaviors and what helps and what doesn't. And that's something that might also work for our moms out there with littles who are getting their new diagnosis, just tracking those behaviors or symptoms, and then trial and error. It's really just about figuring out what works for them, what works for your family, and going from there.
I'm so glad you're willing to share your personal situation. It sounds like you've gone through an entire grief cycle, right? The denial, the anger, the acceptance. And I'm glad you brought up the idea of tracking things, keeping track with, you said cataloging, like writing it down, noticing what's helping and what's not. So having that new diagnosis, whether it's autism, whether it's cancer, or maybe an autoimmune disease, And we've been talking about it in terms of the mom finding out about a diagnosis for a child, but sometimes
Yes.
it's the other way around. The
Yeah.
mom is the one who gets
Mhm.
the diagnosis and has to do this. So just realizing that there's no one size fits all solution. What is working in Natasha's family and for her son, that might not work for one of our moms who's watching today. And I think there's a lot of external pressure. And we're trying to say we might be one of those external pressure sources. I'm coming at you saying, try to fix it all.
Yeah, I'm always
But-
up for listening to advice.
But it is really important to listen to those maternal instincts, find your
Mhm.
own path, do what works for your child, your family.
Right. Yes. And I'm sure those external forces, let's say like extended family and friends, I'm sure they mean to be helpful.
Mhm.
And sometimes, like if they have gone through the situation that you're in, it can be definitely be helpful. But it's important to have that support. But at the same time, it's up to you. It's up to your child's medical professional or your medical professional. And just you get to decide the best course of action. One of the best experiences I've ever had with a medical professional was when I was getting ready to give birth to my daughter. And my doctor asked me, how do you want this to go?
Nice.
What do you want me to do? It wasn't
Nice.
him influencing or putting pressure on me to get it done the way that he wanted to. I made some stupid choices. I will say that. Like birth plans? No. They go out the window. But he followed through with every single one of my requests. And so I trusted him. And I think just finding that support
Yeah.
is really crucial. And you just have to remember that this whole journey is a marathon, and there's no finish line in sight right now. And I'm sorry to say that, but we've got to take it one day at a time and just be able to ask for that help when we need it.
I did run a marathon once, and I know you're preparing for one.
Yeah,
And some of the thoughts that I recall in the midst of running that was, this all just happens one step at a time. And there were people who were faster than me, and there were people who were slower than me, and there were people with great running shoes. And there was one guy, this is true. He had blocks of wood duct taped to his feet.
That sounds
So,
painful, but if you've trained in it, I guess it works.
I don't even know if he did or not.
Oh my gosh.
And one guy was dressed up like the Statue of Liberty and ran with his arm up the whole time. Like, so anyways,
That's impressive.
there's metaphors in that, right?
Everybody has their own journey and it looks different from yours.
Yes. And that it's still one step at a time for 26.2 miles. Now, obviously, a lot of cases, diagnoses, there's just not an end to that marathon. And I think that mentally adjusting to accepting that this is long-term, but that it's still one step at a time, just one step after another. It's one of the most important adjustments that you can make is the acceptance and the commitment, just like gearing up and saying, okay, I can and I will, because I'm the mom and I love that child, and just also like have a little respect for the process, the gradual process of building the muscles that you'll need to carry it. And the day in and the day out, that just feels like such a struggle. That is building muscles in you. And those muscles are going to help you carry it. And I knew a mom whose child was severely mentally handicapped as well as physically. And he was in his 30s when I met her. She was very open and willing to discuss what life was like. And she did. She talked about those muscles and that she was able to lift her 30-year-old son to change his diaper because she had grown those muscles over the years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I have a friend who her younger brother is severely autistic and her parents are getting older.
Yeah.
And so I ask her, like, what does his care look like? Because I imagine she's going to be the one to take it on. And she started years ago. She started years ago learning his routines and how to best care for him, and, things that he likes, things that he doesn't like, things that he will not respond to, things that will freak him out. She started this years ago because she knew that her parents would not be able to stick around forever, and that care would fall to her. And it is just doing those little things one step at a time, and honestly leading with love,
Yeah.
caring with love,
Making sure that the love comes through
yeah,
in the midst of the challenge.
yep, because I think that's the only way that you're going to be able to get through it.
Yeah.
On when the days get really hard, it's that love that is going to keep you going. But in the same realm, I think finding a trusted medical professional to help you and your child through this is absolutely critical. So you need someone that you can ask questions of, that you can be completely open with, and that you trust their advice and what they're asking you to do in order to treat this new diagnosis. And also at the same time, please consider finding a therapist as well. So if you're not comfortable talking with a friend about that, or you need the professional guidance of a therapist to help you work through this, there are specialties out there who can do that for you.
Yes, and you won't feel judged
Right.
when you're in the midst of that, if it's a person who's been trained of how to listen, how to help you work through those things. So this topic might not feel real applicable to some of our viewers, because the examples that we've been using are fairly rare things like autism, cancer, diabetes. The fact is, though, motherhood itself is never a smooth road. And a lot of these coping skills are necessary, even on a daily basis, with just the various issues that apply to motherhood. We might consider them to be minor, of course, in contrast to cancer, but ultimately they can wear us down. Like, picture the drip, drip, drip inside a cave that wears a hole through a rock, right? So being able to manage the dripping so it doesn't wear the hole through us.
Yes. Excuse me. Choked on my own spit. Just going back to, please be willing to accept help. And whatever that looks like, there are people out there who are ready and waiting to support you, just to listen to you, to provide a meal, to sit with you as you cry,
or sit with your child while you get a nap.
Yes,
that's a good one.
That's important. And just lean on that support so it's not crushing you all the time. Use them as a crutch as long as you need, and just know that there's people out there who are willing to lend a listening ear. Excuse me. Whether that's a girlfriend or, a licensed therapist or social worker. And because we all know that, like, sharing our feelings and unloading that burden just makes it so much lighter and so much easier to carry. And that way you can show up for your family still. You can show up for your child and be there for what they need, because they need you. They need you to tell them and to guide them through this whole process as well.
One of the things I thought about as I was preparing to send out our newsletter. So just for all of you viewers, you can sign up for our weekly newsletter. We try to send every mom a smile, and that is an acronym. We want every mom to have support, music in her life, inspiration, laughter, and education. So I was pulling together the different resources for this newsletter to have all those 5 things. And I thought, laughter, can I really try to make somebody laugh about something drastic?
Yeah, how do you do that?
But I really think that is an important tool. And to let yourself just go ahead and laugh. Find something funny. It doesn't have to be related to cancer, right?
It can be your 10th rewatch of Friends.
There we go. Whatever it is that's going to lighten your soul up a little bit, and be okay with that. It's okay to laugh. There was a movie back in the 90s called Patch Adams.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Robin Williams
Yeah.
film. And it's actually a true story. I've even seen one of these Win-Win Women shows had Patch Adams as a guest.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
So he's a real person, and I think his theory is right. We've got to let ourselves laugh no matter what situation we're in. So
Yeah.
I wanted to throw that out there here in these last couple minutes, but
Yes.
Mhm.
I think too, what's just coming to mind is finding those little moments of joy throughout the day. You know, if you're looking at your child and he's done something quite amazing, like just living in that moment, or like buy yourself a new notebook that
Nice.
makes you
I like
happy,
that,
get
yeah.
your nails done, it it's so important to take care of yourself and your mental health during this time. As I said, so you can show up, but also
Right.
so you can just get settled in that new process and get um fine. It doesn't all have to be so heavy and
Right.
depressing and scary. We need to have those little moments of joy in there too.
Yeah, joy and gratitude. Being
Yeah.
grateful for that medical professional that you found that you can trust,
Right.
or grateful for
Yeah.
your friends who they might be awkward, quite honestly. Your friends might be like, I don't even
I
know
don't know
what
what
to
to do with
say
this.
and
Yeah.
how,
I
but
don't know what to do with
they
this.
do want to be there for you, and being grateful is
Yeah.
a big key too. So
Well, we are at the end of our show. We hope you got something you needed out of today's Momversation. And we'd love to hear your tips of creating a new normal after a child or your diagnosis for your family. You can connect with us through Facebook at Mom of Eight or Instagram at Mom of Eight Moms. And as Reagan mentioned, we have our Smile newsletter that goes out every week that matches the theme and the topic for our Momversations. And you can sign up to receive that through the website at momofeight.org.
thank you to our viewers and our behind the scenes friends at Win-Win Women who make this this opportunity to care and connect and collaborate. And I want to give a huge thank you to Natasha. She's given us a couple of months here of her time, donating it to Mom of Eight as our co-host. And I am just so grateful how you've been willing to share yourself with our viewers, and who knows how many people are seeing this, but topics that are deep. Thank you for your vulnerability and imparting the wisdom that you've worked hard to gather as you've navigated these things in your own life. So I'm grateful for the impact that you've had through these episodes, and I'll miss you.
Thank you. Yes, I am needing to step away for a little bit just so I can show up better for my family at this time. But we are going to stop the recording and switch over to our live interaction with our viewers. If you've watched this on Roku or as a recording, be sure to catch the live show every Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific time through the winwinwomen.tv website. So you can also participate in the second half hour and continue the conversation directly with you. If you would like a text reminder to join the show live, text mom at Mom of Eight to 81010.
We would love to include you in our Mom of Eight community, or mom community, as we like to say. So stick around and join the Momversation.